We're going to get started with, well, something which should be part of the election debate. So let's bring the two buffoons on screen. They were on ITV last night. Now, I didn't watch the entire thing by any means, but I'm going to say this is a great example of why we need more independence in the House of Commons. So hashtag Independence Day is what we're arguing for. Because, of course, they talked about economy, they talked about immigration, but they didn't talk about the war danger at the moment, which, of course, they are both banging the drums for. Now, just to put this in a bit of context, here is a tweet from US Senator. This is Senator James Vance, and he has written on his Twitter account yesterday that Biden is sleepwalking into World War III. I just spoke to a friend. I trust in what's going on in Russia. I think the risk of nuclear war now is higher than at any point in my lifetime. Biden is sleepwalking into World War III. And then under that, he has a Politico article linked. The article is called War Has Found Them. Biden's Ukraine gamble sets a new course. And the Politico article says, despite his best efforts, President Joe Biden has plunged the US deeper into the fight in Ukraine. Soon, Ukraine will be using US-made weapons to strike inside Russia, a nuclear-armed power with US President's blessing. President Joe Biden's choice to cross the line and striking inside Russian territory is likely to lead to pressure to go further. Now, RT then has published this article from Fyodor Lukyanov. He's works for various think tanks and so on. Russia needs to explain its red lines to the West. And what he's saying in this article is, well, I'll just quote a little bit from the final paragraph. It says, what do you do in such a situation? And he's talking about the Ukraine situation and Western weapons being used in this way. The time for strategic ambiguity is over, he says, as is the increasingly ritualized talk of red lines. At the very least, Russia needs to be very clear about the steps it will take in response to NATO's actions. Vagueness only encourages flip-flopping and fosters a sense of impunity. And I think last week, Vanessa, I was saying on this program that Russia has been incredibly patient as this whole scenario has built. Somebody in the chat box last week was saying, yes, but that patience appears to be running out. And Lukyanov here is saying very clearly, it's time for Russia to be very explicit about what the dangers are that the West is playing with. And I think these are all good points.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was an article, I think, that I sent you about a week ago where another analyst was basically saying it's time for Russia to set off a nuclear explosion as a warning, in a contained explosion as a warning to the West, and to remind them what a mushroom cloud entails, basically, because, we're a generation that hasn't experienced the likes of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and all the various nuclear test explosions that went on around that time. So, yeah, very clear messages from Russia right now.
Absolutely. And so what's the response? Because not every country is behaving in the same way. So here's Hungary yesterday, and people out protesting on the streets, calling for peace, not war, and quite a parade going on. If you look at the various video footage on this, thousands and thousands and thousands of people on the streets. Viktor Orban made a speech around the same time. So let's just have a brief listen to this.
Falon. A magyarok ismerik a háború természetét. Tudják, a háború mindig másképpen végződik, mint ahogyan kezdetben elgondolták. Ezért fekszenek ma európai fiatalok milliói tömegsírokban. Ezért nincs elég európai ember, ezért nincs elég európai gyerek. A háború öl. Valaki fegyverrel a kézben hal meg. Valaki menekülés közben. Valaki bombázásban. Valaki az ellenség börtönében. Valaki járványban. Valaki éhen hal. Van, akit megkínoznak. Van, akit megerőszakolnak. Van, akit elvisznek rabszolgának. Számolatlanul sorakozó sírok, fiaikért zokogó anyák, férjeiket sirató nők, meg annyi odaveszett élet. Egy dolgot tudunk, ahová a háború beteszi a lábát, ott nincs menekvés. A háború utolér. Nem tudsz kitérni, nem tudsz elbújni előle. A háború egyetlen ellenszere a béke. Kimaradni a háborúból, és a béke szigeteként megőrizni Magyarországot. Ez a mi küldetésünk.
So, Charles, the only antidote to war is peace. And I'm going to say, well, first of all, what are your thoughts on that?
Good afternoon, all. Thanks, Mike. Well, I don't think I want to overcomplicate matters by disagreeing with any of what he said. I think he's absolutely right, and so-called leaders across the West should pay attention to every single word that he's said.
Yes, absolutely. So if we bring these two back on screen again, these two, neither of these two is going to bring us into a world of peace. And so none of us should be voting for either of them or for either of the parties, in my opinion. Let's vote for some alternatives, whether it be independence, which is what we would recommend, but there are others in some of the smaller parties that might have a bit more sanity about them. Okay, let's come back.